The most unbelievable story in China: Yang Degui, a farmer, was able to get 10,000 yuan bills from a bank thousands of miles away with just a basin of water. The universe is infinite, but life is limited. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. My name is Zeng Wuji, and the most incredible story in China that I will introduce today is a Chinese farmer named Yang Degui who has been widely spread in China with strict ideological management for decades and has been officially certified as an intangible heritage. Yang Degui's water escape technique can get 10,000 yuan bills from a bank thousands of miles away. Because Yang Degui encourages everyone to reveal the secret or fight in the ring, I have repeatedly encouraged my graduate students to verify the authenticity in my university teaching, and my 20 years of research and investigation have proved this to be true. For more than 20 years, the evasion techniques demonstrated by Yang Degui have become more and more influential from the folk to the government, from domestic to overseas, and have been recognized by the Chinese government, which is under strict ideological management, and obtained the Certificate of Intangible Cultural Heritage. An unsolved mystery that was repeatedly tested and determined to be non-magic by the top official media CCTV. According to Yang Degui's own statement, the thaumaturgy of getting money in objects for thousands of miles he demonstrated is a traditional Taoist escapism, taught by Taoist master Zhu Yuangao. The so-called escape technique includes invisibility, escape, transportation and so on. Yang Degui's evasion technique is similar to the technique of transporting. He does not conjure objects out of nothing, but transports objects from somewhere to the demonstration site, and can also escape objects from the demonstration site. Someone once took nearly 10,000 yuan of Yang Degui's escaped currency to the bank for inspection, which proved that these yuan were real money. It can be seen from this that Yang Degui did not change money, and the money he obtained was not fake money. To escape money is to escape real money from other places to the demonstration site. The main utensils for the demonstration are very simple, including a table, a medium-sized porcelain basin, half filled with water, a blanket to cover the porcelain basin, 2 to 3 newspapers, a red thread, and a bunch of keys. The difference from all magic tricks is that all the tools can be provided by the testing party. It can even accept extremely harsh tests, such as being able to perform naked without any clothes of the opposite sex, and the possibility of cheating is almost zero. A typical performance was accepted in Wuhan on October 21, 2010 by a group of domestic and foreign experts. The units participating in the inspection include the Sino-American Institute of Psychology, Wuhan Educational Television, etc. Participants included Professor Stanley Kupini, a famous American parapsychologist, Professor Gong Zhibing, a doctoral supervisor at Wuhan University, and so on. And after monitoring and observing Yang Degui's many demonstrations, it was unanimously confirmed that it was not magic and there was no cheating. Escapism. At the beginning of the demonstration, Yang Degui took off his shirt, untied his belt, and exposed his shorts for Professor Kupini to check. He then put the red thread into the porcelain basin and asked the first participant to press the bottom of the basin with their index and middle fingers. After a while, hang the red wire on the window. After that, he sat at the table, covered the porcelain basin with a blanket, and put a bunch of keys in the porcelain basin. He chanted various mantras, put one hand in the basin and the other outside the basin. Participants in turn sit opposite him and place one hand in the basin. One of his hands was also in the basin. His hand sometimes grasps the bottom of the basin in the basin, sometimes stirs up water waves, and sometimes gently grasps the back of the participant's hand, asking the participant to imagine that he can touch something in his mind. When the participant feels something in their finger, take it out. In most cases, what is taken out is 100 yuan, wet. In a few cases, stones, silver dollars, food stamps, works of art, etc., are taken out. Professor Kupini was always at the demonstration site, sitting opposite to Yang Degui, never leaving from the beginning to the end, keeping his eyes on every movement of Yang Degui. When he observed for the first time on the 22nd, his expression was serious and unsmiling. During the second observation on the 23rd, he applauded many times and gave a thumbs up to express his appreciation. He said that Yang Degui's escapism is not magic, and there is no possibility of cheating. According to online records, once, Chongqing sent for magicians to supervise Yang Degui's demonstration site, but Yang Degui was not found to be cheating. Yang Degui was able to escape not only the money, but also escape from the scene. Hence escaped with a piece of 50 renminbi on the spot. But there are also times when it is unsuccessful. For example, in the demonstration on the evening of the 23rd, he tried to escape with 200 yuan, but failed. On the morning of the 24th, he wanted to escape 1,633 yuan, but in the end 1,533 yuan escaped, and a piece of 100 yuan was left in the bottom of the basin, which was basically successful. Yang Degui's magical escapism seems to be unable to control what is escaping. Sometimes renminbi appears in the basin, sometimes it is food stamps from the past, and sometimes it is stones. Participants expressed to Yang Degui what they hoped for, and Yang Degui encouraged him to imagine this object in his mind. He himself also hoped to fulfill the participants, but the elusive objects are often not what the participants imagined. Sometimes the hidden objects show regularity. For example, at the beginning of the demonstration, only 100 yuan and 200 yuan can be drawn of the porcelain basin. Out. There is also a regularity. The first time Professor Kupini took out a $20 bill, does this have something to do with his being an American? In June 2009, Yang Degui's Taoist Dan Shu, escape technique, was included in the second batch of intangible cultural heritage list by Wanzhou District, which belongs to the category of magic. In July 2010, Wanzhou District declared Yang Degui's evasion technique to Chongqing City for approval as a municipal intangible cultural heritage. Why is it classified as magic? According to the Wanzhou District Office for the Protection of Intangible Cultural Heritage, Dan Shu is a traditional folk performing art that is very popular among the people in East Yu. According to textual research, it originated in the Western Zhou dynasty and has a history of more than 3,000 years. It belongs to a kind of magic trick in folk acrobatics, and its escaping objects are real. At present, this trick is very rare and is on the verge of extinction. Although many people think that this kind of trick is superstitious, since it appears in real life, we should not avoid it, but approach it, study it, interpret it, so that it can enter the series of Chinese folk culture, form high-quality spiritual food and serve people. In January 2010, Yang Degui's Water Escape performance participated in the audition for the album Into Chongqing Wanzhou of CCTV's 7 sets of Country Big World. Escape, because CCTV claimed that it was not magic, aroused everyone's curiosity, and many netizens criticized it. Zhejiang professor Xiao Linxiang from Normal University teamed up to inspect Yang Degui in Chongqing and Xintian, Wanzhou in July 2010. Professor Chen Qian from Maryland, USA, and manager Xiao Zhongqiang from Nanjing also participated in the inspection. The inspectors bought tables and newspapers for each inspection. Towels, basins and other equipment, still no flaws were found, and related videos were uploaded on the internet. Ian Damon, a teacher at Yangzhou Vocational University, also wrote a detailed research report on Yang Degui's water escape technique based on a large number of on-site inspections. In the report, the content is richer and the testing equipment is stricter. Live animals such as birds, and large items that cannot be hidden. In response to the doubts of many people, Yang Degui believes that escapism is escapism, not magic. He said that magic must use specially made props, and one or several assistants should be assisted by one or more assistants during the performance. For example, the magic master Lu Qian, After watching his magic performance, everyone said it was wonderful, but without these assistants and props, his performance would be impossible to complete. As for the escape technique, a few simple basins, water, cloth, and newspapers are provided by the visitors, without any special props and assistance. According to Yang Degui's introduction, his Taoist master is Zhu Yuangao, a descendant of the authentic Taoist charm school, a native of Jingzhou, Hubei, and he is still alive today, and was over 80 years old at the time. I like to live a hermit life. In recent years, I have been away from my hometown and traveled to famous mountains and rivers. He and his master have not been in touch for 3 years. Yang Degui was born in 1964 in Xintian Town, Guangzhou. He lost his father when he was young, and his mother died when he was in his teens. He became an orphan and lived with his elder brother. In the winter of 1981, a teenage Yang Degui picked up a load of carrots and took a boat from Xintian Town to Guangzhou City to sell them. I met 2 crooks on the boat, who cheated me of my money and carrots. After he disembarked at Guangzhou Wharf, he was extremely depressed and had no money to go home. At this time, a middle-aged man with a sense of demeanor came to him and said to him, "If you follow me, you will have no problem with food and clothing." Yang Degui was desperate, so he followed the middle-aged man to his home in Jingzhou to learn from a teacher. Yang Degui stayed at the master's house for a while, and the master taught him various Taoist spells, escape, scissors, self-defense, and so on. On the last day, the master gave him the fee to go home and asked Yang Degui to continue practicing after returning home. After several years of hard training in his hometown, Yang Degui finally mastered it, and went to the master's house to perform one by one. The master finally warned him sternly, "Do not use any spells in crooked ways, and don't use crooked thoughts, otherwise the master will not forgive you." The master's skill is much higher than that of the apprentice. He can bring people around without a shadow, but Yang Degui can only escape money and objects but not people. Yang Degui said that he would not dare to use a cent of the tens of thousands of yuan he obtained every time he performed escapism. The master warned him that if he spent a penny, his spell would disappear. The money escaped on its own within 3 days, returning to where they came from. If Yang Degui had signed the money would not have escaped. Many people exchanged the money they had with them for the wet money they got away and waited in line for autographs. In addition to the escaping technique, Yang Degui also performed scissor skills, and once cut the old man's fire tongs. At that time, Yang Degui took a towel to cover the tongs, made a cutting motion on the tongs with his middle finger and index finger, then held one end of the tongs with one hand, and pulled them to both sides. After a crisp sound, the tongs broke into 2 pieces on the spot. According to Ranjin Xue, Yang Degui's assistant, Yang Degui once taught scissors kung fu to a disciple in South Korea, and this disciple can now perform scissors kung fu, cutting a steel bar as thick as a thumb. The highest deity that Yang Degui believes in is Taishan Laojun. In mantras, Taishan Laojun urgently orders, and the like can often be heard. Taishan Laojun is a high-ranking god of Taoism. When practicing escapism, he would recite mantras in front of a water basin, and draw talismans in the air. Once, he even drew talismans in a bowl of clear water for the inspectors to drink. These are common techniques used by the Taoist talisman school. The origin of Yang Degui's escapism is the Taoist escapism in ancient China. There are many Taoist and Taoist spells, and Dun Shu is one of them. It is said that it is a magical spell created by folk Taoists based on the concept of 5 elements and Qimen Duanjia. Escapism is divided into many small spells such as escape, concealment, and transportation. Among the folk arts, there is another convenient method of the 5 elements escape technique, which is to burn amulets and take them. There are gold escape talisman, wood escape talisman, water escape talisman, fire escape talisman, and earth escape talisman. When encountering a crisis, according to the local environment and objects at that time, one kind of talisman can be used urgently to perform a kind of escapism and escape from distress. Stealth, that is, invisibility or concealment. It existed in the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period, and it has been recorded in the historical records of the Han Dynasty. Lu Xiang's Biography of Lai Nu records, during the banquet of King Xian of Qi, Zhong Lichuan, a woman, once performed the concealment technique for King Xian of Qi. Zhong Lichuan said, "I like the technique of body escape very much." King Xian of Qi said, "The art of invisibility is what I have always wanted to see. Please perform it." As soon as the voice fell, Zhong Lichuan's body suddenly disappeared. King Xian of Qi couldn't help applauding. This is a kind of escape technique, concealment technique. In Taoism, there is 9 escape techniques, which is one of the Taoist exercises, also known as 9 palace invisibility techniques. Qimen Duanjia is a collection of various Taoist spells, mostly used for divination and prediction, but it includes a lot of invisibility. Human invisibility has been documented for centuries. Magicians in ancient Europe used herbs and rituals to pursue invisibility. In India, Raja Yoga apprentices learn from their teachers how to gain supernatural powers, such as making themselves invisible. One of the yoga masters was indeed able to become invisible, so that the apprentices could not see his body after being invisible. A case in Ventura, California, USA details a housewife who sat on a couch and became invisible for 10 minutes while her husband looked around the house but couldn't see her. But she could see her husband. Carrying technique is a kind of escape technique. In the ancient novel about Lao's Han Taoist priests draw wine on the wall to get wine and drink it. Another woman was drawn, who turned into a real woman singing and dancing, and drinking for Taoist priests. It's all portage. The novel also describes that the young Taoist learns the magic of passing through walls from the old Taoist priest. Passing through the wall can also be regarded as a kind of escape technique, which is to transport oneself to the other side of the wall. In Taoism, there is the technique of transporting 5 ghosts, also known as the technique of transporting wealth by 5 ghosts, which is a secret method of seeking wealth. It uses spells to drive the 5 ghosts to help transport wealth and move money and treasures from other places to itself. Most of the users of this method are feng shui masters, who can call the ghosts of wealth in the 5 directions, east, west, north, south, and middle, and the dead souls in the 3 realms to act. China. Both the evasion technique and the transportation technique in ancient have strict requirements for those who practice the law and those who seek wealth, and so on. In recent years, due to the increasingly strict management of China's official ideology, I no longer accept media interviews, but I am still very active, and I am more involved in some officially licensed public welfare activities and scientific research. Yang Degui participated in a scientific experiment in December 2017. The researchers asked Yang Degui to carry the GPS terminal out of the experiment room through his mind. The satellite positioning system GPS confirmed that the terminal had indeed flown out, including the starting point, ending point, time, speed, and flight route. In this experiment, the experimental items are transmitted in an invisible way, invisible to the eyes, and cannot be photographed by the equipment. We can only assume that these items have entered the parallel universe. The GPS recorded this transfer, and the speed started around 12 o'clock, 8.67 km per hour. 12:08 2.07 km per hour, very slow, almost stopped. The GPS flew for about 8 minutes in total, arrived at a place 1,200 meters away from the experiment site, stopped at a certain position in the Yangtze River, and then returned to the vicinity of the original place. Each GPS terminal is unique, the uniqueness lies in the number, no 2 numbers are the same. The experimenters checked the serial number and proved that the one that came back was indeed the GPS terminal that was flown out 3 days ago. In this experiment, the latest technology satellite positioning system GPS is used as a tool to prove the authenticity of teleportation. It provides a new method for testing parapsychological experiments. Regarding Yang Degui's water escape technique, Dr. Zeng commented. 1. Many people on the internet said that Yang Degui is a liar. Dr. Zeng thinks this is unfair. More than 90% of the 10,000 person times have no objection, including the test by a professional team of famous Chinese and foreign psychologists and scientists. There are mistakes in any test. You cannot completely deny it if you fail once or twice. This is not the attitude that science should have. 2. Yang Degui's traditional Chinese escapism has undergone several months of repeated inspections by the Chinese government with extremely strict ideological management, and finally passed the certification. It is not magic, and it is not fake. 3. The so-called hiding money in the water basin or under the table by the questioning party, including an anti-counterfeit fighter and a guest of Japanese TV station, is untenable, because scientists have repeated experiments many times and have ruled out this factor. The specific method is that all props are provided by the inspection party. Many times the inspection was even carried out with Yang Degui naked. This is something no magician can do. Investigate things to know, we don't want to copy what others say, and keep questioning and open to new things and unknown mysteries. Well, that's all for today, and we'll be featuring some of China's most incredible stories every week. I hope everyone will support. Welcome to discuss. Remember to subscribe to encourage us to continue to create. Thank you.